Welcome to Inside the Hoodie, brought to you by the Fan View Network. I'm Bobby Kravitsky. You can find me on Twitter at Bobby_K91. He, of course, is Jeff Kane. You can find him on Twitter at JeffKane78. Be sure to read his excellent articles, especially as we enter draft season, featured on ESPN New Hampshire. The big fella does excellent work for them, just like he does for us. And of course, you should be following the show Inside the Hoodie on Twitter at ITH_FV. We told you last week, we're really going to start amping up the draft coverage, cranking out more and more content related to the big event that's set to come in about a month from now. So we're going to start tonight by breaking down the running back position. Jeff, let's start with what the Patriots already have on the roster, which, to be honest, isn't a whole heck of a lot. You look at Dion Lewis, who's coming off of a very serious knee injury. James White, his replacement, played well, but at this point is still viewed as a replacement level player. They signed Donald Brown, which, to put it mildly, did not excite you, although I think he could be a good fit in New England, but again, certainly not going to be mistaken for a first and second down back. Then they have Brandon Bolden, who, while he is versatile, he's much more of a special teamer than he is a running back. They'll get back this year fullback James Devlin, who was an underrated loss for this team going down in the preseason a year ago. And then they've got the Hawaiian Hammer, Joey Josefa, and Tyler Gaffney. So there's not a whole lot to be impressed with at that running back position right now for the Patriots, Jeff.
I couldn't agree with you anymore, Bobby. And I'm going to start out talking a little bit about, this running back position and what's going on here. But you're right. I mean, there's not a whole lot there. Now, Dion Lewis was everyone's darling last year. We saw what he did. But I have said it many times, it's going to be awfully hard for a guy like him to come back from that ACL injury. I know people sit there and say, well, Adrian Peterson did it. No Sean Moreno did it. Well, these were different style backs that didn't rely as much on that hard cutting ability that Dion Lewis does rely on. We'll see what happens. While Dion Lewis was great and reminded me a lot of what the Patriots used to do with Danny Woodhead, you have James White. And I love James White, but for some reason they don't hand the ball off to him. They do a lot more with what they did with Shane Vereen. Same type of model, catching the ball out of the backfield, blocking, screen game here and there, wheel routes, that sort of thing, but never really give him the chance to, run the ball 7 to 10 times a game. I think he just doesn't get it there. Donald Brown, listen, I know you're kind of excited about him, and I went back and I watched everything that he did in San Diego over the last 2 years. I got rid of what happened in Indianapolis because it's two different offensive systems. In San Diego, they're running with Mike McCoy. They're running a version of the Earnhardt Perkins offense, which, of course, is where the Patriots offense was developed from. And, Mike McCoy used to be the offensive coordinator in Denver under Josh McDaniels. So there's a little something similar there. I look at it, and it doesn't excite me. Sure, he can catch the ball out of the backfield, but this is a guy who averaged 3.1 yards per carry in 2 years there. This is far from the guy who ran for over 2,000 yards at UConn. I'm not excited. Brandon Bolden, he is what he is. Listen, he's a great special teams player. He's the classic boomer bust running back. If the hole's there, he's going to get you 10, 15, 20, even maybe 30 yards. He's done it before. But for the most part, he's running right up the back of his offensive lineman and can't do much. Tyler Gaffney, if he could ever stay healthy, I'd love him. In Stanford, he was great. Joey Josefa, he had that one decent game.
One decent run, really.
Really, the one decent run, exactly. So, nothing huge there. And, there's nothing really to be excited about at that running back position. I think they've done amazing at every other position, as we talked about. The running back position, it leaves a lot to be desired, but that's what the NFL draft is for, and the 11 picks that you have in the NFL draft.
So, Jeff, obviously this is headed in the direction of us talking about potential fits at running back in the draft. But let's circle back for a second to James White, because I'm curious, do you believe that the Patriots are seeing in practice that, okay, this is someone who we can't trust handing the ball off to, whether that's an ability standpoint? Certainly it wouldn't seem like a fumble issue because we've never seen that from James White, and we don't see it in the pass catching game. Or are you skeptical that the Patriots are even open-minded enough to give him a chance in the backfield? Would you like to see him get more carries, or do you think that they clearly have an understanding of James White's limitations?
I would love to see him get more carries. I mean, obviously, at Wisconsin, he split time with Monte Ball. He split time with Melvin Gordon, but he still was able to run the ball, averaging over 5 yards a carry at Wisconsin. Has that transferred, into the NFL? It really hasn't. And they're not even giving him a chance in traditional running sets. When he does get a handoff, it's usually a delay or a draw out of a shotgun set. You need to hope that the offensive line makes a hole here or there. I mean, he's not going to make anyone miss. I think the Patriots are a lot more imaginative of that, but I don't think that when they have James White in there, I think that they think his best suit for them is basically to throw him the football. So it's that classic thing that drives me crazy, the big back versus passing back. And I don't think that they give the big back enough chances to catch the football. And I don't think they give the passing back enough chances to run the football. And while you have Tom Brady and now you have, Julian Edelman and Chris Hogan and Danny Amendola for the time being and the tight end duo of Gronk and Bennett, wouldn't it be nice if you had a running threat out of that situation? And I don't understand why James White can't be that running threat. But we'll see.
Well, they certainly need to become more dynamic on offense, and they've done that from a passing game perspective, but you go back and look at how this team has traditionally lost in the playoffs, and it's usually been some combination of the offensive line and the lack of a running game. So that's where fans were targeting entering the offseason, looking at the big names out there like a Matt Forte, among others, and obviously none of that has materialized. There's still Arian Foster out there, I'm just saying, but it seems more than likely that LeGarrette Blount will probably be back and that they'll look to draft at least one, maybe even two running backs. So why don't we get into who those viable candidates are now? And we'll, of course, start at the top. Let's take a look at the kid from Alabama, Derrick Henry, who I feel, Jeff, is the second best running back in this draft class. I know, talking to you off air, that you agree with that assessment. And for me, when you look at how much the Patriots value the power back and having that dynamic in the backfield, I think that Henry is the ideal pick and someone that you can certainly rely on, not just first and second downs, but also who you can trust in short yardage situations, which is part of the reason that they like LeGarrette Blount so much.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Bobby. I mean, let's look at Henry. He's probably the second best running back in the draft outside of Ohio State's Elliott. But he is that hammer. He's that, big back. And you wonder with Alabama backs, we've had this conversation off the air, we've had this conversation on the air, whether a running back who touched the ball over 300 times last year for Alabama and ran for over 2,000 yards would have the stamina to step up and be good in the NFL. Now, here's a case. If you bring him to the Patriots, they're not going to ask him to carry the ball 350 to 400 times a season. They're going to ask him to carry the ball about 200 to 250 times a season and get the short yardage gains, get those first down carries, those second down carries, and get them 4.5, 5 yards on those things to make second down shorter, to make third down more available to catch the ball and get a first down. I love Henry. If we're going to talk anything about him, it's the fact that, he didn't catch the ball a lot. But as we just said, that puts out perfectly what the Patriots like to do, where they like to, basically sit there and be big back, receiving back, still keeps them a little bit one-dimensional, but at least you may have a running back who is dynamic enough to pick up 5 yards when you need 4 yards or 3 yards when you need 2, and not always rely on Tom Brady throwing a short pass. That's, let's face it, is accurate or works 60 to 65% of the time.
And let's not forget with Derrick Henry that just because it's unlikely they involve him in the passing game from a receiving standpoint, here's someone who played in a pro-style offense at Alabama. They primarily relied on slide and turn protections where they would let the DN loose and Henry would have to pick him up in the hole, and he did an excellent job of that all season. So it's not necessarily that having him out on the field automatically signals to the defense that it's going to be a run, especially in his formative years in the NFL, and being able to trust someone who came from Nick Saban in Alabama, who showed their abilities as a pass protector in the college game, I think gives them a lot of confidence. And also, I love that topic, that debate of Alabama running backs and how much of a concern the mileage they come into the NFL with should be. And while it's certainly a concern with Derrick Henry, I think it's less of a concern because this is a different build than previous Alabama backs, including Mark Ingram. You look at Derrick Henry and his size at 6'3", the fact that this is a runner who got stronger as the game went on. The more carries he got, the more of a beating he took. It only seemed to make him a better player and get more of a rhythm going. So there's a lot of signs that point to Derrick Henry being able to translate and hold up at the next level. That is a player that I'm confident in. However, Jeff, I think one of the concerns from a New England perspective is that you'd have to trade up to get him and just how much draft capital you'd have to give up in order to be in position to select him. So that's why we're not just looking at the top of the board as we continue moving down now, in no particular order, I might add. Let's take a look at Kenneth Dixon, who 5'10", 215. He played at Louisiana Tech, so it's obviously a little bit different from the competition that Mr. Henry was seeing. But this is a kid who put up big-time numbers. In 2015, Jeff, he rushed for over 1,000 yards, had 467 receiving yards, 26 total touchdowns. He's a potential three-down back that I really like.
He is a potential three-down back. The only knock on Dixon is his 40 time. I mean, I think he ran almost a 4.6, which is pretty slow for an NFL running back. But 5'10", 215 pounds, can run the ball, played in at Louisiana Tech, which is a good school. Was able to catch the ball a little bit, does a little bit of everything. He's a little more of an all-around back than Derrick Henry is. So maybe he sits in and sits up. He's got a second to fourth round projection, depending on, basically who you're looking at. So Kenneth Dixon, to me, is the type of running back the Patriots could draft. I think this is a lot, this draft. You talked about that, Bobby. I think this is one of those drafts where they turn around and they do a twofer, like they did back in 2011 with Shane Vereen and Stephen Ridley. So Dixon's the type of back I could see the Patriots going after. That being said, he's not an all-around back the way that I want, but he may fit a little bit more what the Patriots have to do there. And I also wonder about his blitz pickup. We talked about Derrick Henry not being a passing threat, but he does do great blocking, like you just said, out of the backfield. So that's something that the Patriots, don't have to worry about when you got a 39-year-old Tom Brady dropping back to pass. Dixon, he hasn't shown the ability to pass block as well as some of the other running backs out there. Yeah,
I would say that his second biggest knock is that lack of an ability in pass protection. There's legitimate concerns when you watch him on film whether or not he'll be able to correct that at the next level. And then secondly, and this is part of the issue there, is his frame. He's not the biggest guy when you look at how he's built. So you hear 5'10", 215. That's not necessarily bad, but it's how it looks, how it's built. And there's a lot of questions there about that frame and about durability with Kenneth Dixon. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he holds up at the next level, but this is
And,
someone who possesses great footwork. He gets through the hole quickly. I like how fast he's able to make his first read when he gets the ball. So there's a lot to like about Kenneth Dixon, but there's also legitimate concerns, and that's why I think this is a player who's probably better off being part of a committee. It's part of the reason that he makes sense for the Patriots, but then again, when you look at how loaded next year's running back class figures to be, I'm not sure that they're going to go with Kenneth Dixon, even if they are thinking committee approach, which brings us to our next player.
well, 1 second there,
Go
Bobby,
ahead, Joe.
because there's another thing that you really got to look at with Kenneth Dixon, and it'll hit straight home with Patriots fans who couldn't stand the fact that of Stephen Ridley and the ball was on the ground. 13 fumbles last year could be off the Patriots' radar right there with the lack of ball security. Everyone talks about how the Patriots do not fumble the football, and that's one of the things there. They fumble the football at a very low rate, and that's one of the things. Even Stephen Ridley, his fumbles came at the worst time, and we remember them. But still, he didn't fumble as much as the LeGarrette Blount. So I wonder if Dixon, while he can catch the ball, he's not great in the pass blocking game, but he can catch the ball, he can run the ball. But when he's holding it like a loaf of bread, he might be off the Patriots' radar.
And Jeff, that's an excellent transition to something he has in common with the next back that we're going to be discussing, Alex Collins from Arkansas. We'll start with the size to give fans an understanding of the type of running back that we're talking about here. 5'10", 217, very productive player in the SEC, where he rushed for 1,577 yards, 20 touchdowns, and earned second-team all-conference honors behind Derrick Henry and Leonard Fournette. He's being compared to Chris Ivory, Jeff, because of his frame and the fact that he really only runs at one speed. Probably the dreadlocks, too, is part of the equation there. But he has run in gap, power, and zone schemes. So this is a well-versed running back that comes from an elite conference in college football and produced big-time numbers against players that are going to be joining him at the next level.
Yeah, and that's one thing, about Arkansas. I mean, they're obviously in a great conference. They're obviously playing against top-level competition. But I always wonder, we talked about Alabama running backs. I always wonder about Arkansas running backs because name me the last great Arkansas running back. I mean, you had Darren McFadden and Felix Jones come out, and neither one of them lived up to their potential. And I'm trying to think of the big white kid that came out and actually was better than both of them. He played for Cleveland, played for the Broncos, was on the cover of Madden. What was his name there?
I was trying to think of his name too, and then you said it, and I was hoping it would help me. It didn't. I know that there's people who are screaming his name out right now as we struggle to figure this out. Maybe someone on Periscope will chime in with the answer, but until then, it's beyond the point anyways, Jeff, so I'll let you go back to the statement you were making.
Vardell, but that's way back in the day. The only running back outside of Lawrence Maroney that Bill Belichick has ever taken in the first round, touchdown Tommy Vardell from Cleveland. That getting off source a little bit here, but we'll remember his name in a little bit.
It'll come to us. Anyways, Jeff, like we said there as we transitioned into discussing Collins, big concern with the fumbles. Now, there's also issues that go well beyond that because he's not known for being able to get yards after contact. He only broke 5 tackles in his last 475 carries, according to NFL.com. And there's also concerns about whether or not he's going to be able to contribute as a receiver or in pass protection. So this is someone who comes to the NFL with a limited skill set. That doesn't mean he won't develop those tools as he gets older, but right now he's at a point in his development where genuine concerns about how dynamic of a running back this is, though it certainly is a productive one.
Again, when an Arkansas running back proves me wrong, I'll be happy. I just don't love Arkansas running backs lately.
short and to the point, Mr. Kane. And now we translate to someone who I sent you a YouTube video of and was happy to hear that you got just as excited as I did. Quite
Full
frankly,
on Patsgasm, baby. Full
amen.
on.
This is someone who, when you look at Derrick Henry's draft status and where he figures to go, Devontae Booker is probably, when you combine need and value, my number one target at the position for the Patriots. 5'11", 219 out of Utah, where you're in second team, all Pac-12 honors because he rushed for 1,261 yards to go along with 11 touchdowns. Now, I will give you a word of caution. He tore his meniscus, which cut his season short after 10 games. But you look at that injury and how players have recovered, I'm not too concerned about it. And all the more reason to take a gamble on this kid is the fact that he has experience in a pro-style running game. He brings power, quickness, elusiveness. He gets better as the game goes on, and he can contribute in the passing game where he caught 80 balls between 2014 and 15. I really like Devontae Booker. I am sold on his abilities and think that he would be an excellent fit in New England.
I love Booker. I really love him. You sent me that YouTube video, and I had a full-on chub. I mean, really did. I mean, the guy, he can run the ball, catch the ball, has speed to the outside, the ability to bounce off tackles inside. Played in a good conference. I mean, no one's going to turn around and say that the Pac-12 is the SEC, but the Pac-12 has some really good. It's a power conference. It's got some really good teams there. Really like what I see out of there. The thing with Booker, of course, the meniscus tear. I'm not too concerned about that. I tore my meniscus when I was in my early 20s, and 3 days later I was climbing up and down ladders, pulling wires. But
you're usually the exception to the rule. You're the Adrian Peterson of this type of stuff, Jeff.
Yeah, in fact, the meniscus was torn. What was that, back in December, I believe? The other meniscus in the right knee. So we're all right. We do okay here, kid. But I like Booker. And the only thing I wonder is this, again, a speed running back who can catch the ball that the Patriots are not going to allow to be a 3-down running back? And listen, I'm not trying to get down on the Patriots and what they do as an offensive team. Obviously, they've been winning for 15 years. But I still want to know, if they had that chance, if they had a guy who they could hand the ball off to, would they do that? Now, Booker looks like that type of guy to me. He looks like the type of guy who you could hand the ball off to 15 to 20 times a game, and he'd do well, get strong, be able to catch the ball. But then I wonder, they really haven't done that with any running back since Corey Dillon in the 2004 season.
Yeah, Jeff, that's an excellent point. And we're getting some comments here on Periscope, including the answer to our riddle.
Thank
the answer
God.
is Peyton Hillis. That's who it was.
Say perfect white guy name. Peyton Hillis. Big dude. I remember that. I love that guy. He actually won me a fantasy football championship back in 2008, 2009, when he came in for Denver. It was great. Peyton Hillis. Thank you for whoever came back and said that. Appreciate that one.
Yeah, he was a beast in his early days coming out of the gates, and then really slowed down. I remember him on the Giants as a backup. So it didn't last long for Peyton Hillis, but he was good enough to get on the Madden cover.
Oh, it was the Madden curse that killed him, dude. How many careers has that ruined?
Oh, too many to name at this point.
It ruined one of my marriages because I played it too much.
I just remember that scene in The Breakup with Vince Vaughn playing Jennifer Aniston's date, and he's beating the crap out of him. He turns over and he says to him, "Will your mom still love you after he sees the score?"
Dude, we're going to have to talk Madden at another time. I just love that game.
Oh, absolutely. We'll fire up some discussion about that when we get off the air and rejoin the guys in the Patriots message group. Now, perfect segue to someone from the message group's favorite running back in this draft, not including Derrick Henry and Ezekiel Elliott, of course, and that is the Notre Dame product,
Gotta be
Procise.
Gotta be Sam Pericolo. Gotta be.
Money, you nailed it.
The guy still thinks Jonathan Gray. Jonathan
Jonas.
Gray. Jonas Gray didn't oversleep. He thinks he's going to be the greatest back of all time.
I was right there with Sam defending him until the end, but it's quite telling that he's not getting another NFL shot, and it didn't work out in Miami either, where they would have loved, after the Patriots took Wes Welker, among others, to get someone off New England's roster and have it work out for them. Not the case for Muscles McGee, Jonas Gray. CJ Prosise, I like the build. He's not quite got the same pythons that Jonas Gray does, but 6 feet, 220. Not to mention, it's an athletic build that allowed him to not only rush for over 1,000 yards and find the end zone 11 times, which, by the way, Jeff, you'll love this. You're always looking at yards per carry. What did he average? Well, on 156 attempts, not only did he go for over 1,000 yards and 11 TDs, but he averaged 6.6 yards per attempt. So that's quite the impressive feat from CJ Prosise, who on top of all that caught 26 balls for 308 yards and a touchdown.
This guy right here, Prosise, I love him. And as Bobby, I mean, I'm wearing as Sam. Sam, I got my Boston College sweatshirt on right now, okay? It's the other Irish school. It's the other Irish Catholic school. So
show him your hat.
Shirt on, but it's the Virginia hat. Wore this just for Bobby.
Syracuse in the house, baby.
Because
Final Four, we'll see you there.
Because his Q's team
showing up, Virginia. We got some lovely parting gifts for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I'm a little bit of a poser here. Got the Virginia hat, got the Boston College sweatshirt, but I love CJ Primrose. I love him a lot. And the thing that I look about when you're watching NFL football, it used to be that if you had a guy that averaged, 4.3, 4.4, 4.5 yards per carry, that was your guy. That was your guy that you could really expect to be a great running back. Anything over 4 is really, great. But in the college game, it's a little different. It's more than a yard. It's almost 5.5 yards per carry that separates the really good backs from the great backs. And Primrose is 6.6 yards per carry. That's unreal. I've seen a lot of people sit there and say he's very much like David Johnson, the first-year player from the Arizona Cardinals. This is a guy who I would love to see with the New England Patriots. I think he would be perfect in the Patriots offense. He can catch the ball, run the ball, pass blocks pretty well. Came from Kelly's system in Notre Dame, which, I watch every Saturday. Got a lot on him this year. Him and Fuller were awesome together. If I can't have Derrick Henry, give me Primrose. That's what I'm saying.
And Jeff, you probably took even more notice of Prosise in 2000. I didn't even say anything that time. I was just going to be cool, let that one slide. That was all you right there.
Dude, you know what it is? Primrose. I watched the Hunger Games, last night, and J-Law's sister and that, her name's Primrose or something like that, and J-Law's just wicked hot, dude.
What'd you think of those movies? They didn't do it for me. The first one was great, and then it was all downhill after that.
It may surprise you here, but the fat guy really enjoys reading, and those books were phenomenal. The only thing that I really loved about the movies was Jennifer Lawrence. That chick is so hot. Like wicked hot. I mean, she had me sitting down and watching the Silver Linings Playbook, thinking I was watching a football movie, and still got a chub. I mean, the girl was amazing. She's unbelievable. She's right below Scarlett Johansson for me.
Whoa, that, for anyone who knows Jeff K, knows how high of a praise that is.
Oh, ScarJo, she just loves me. My wife pretends to be ScarJo every night for me.
It's like in Seinfeld when George Costanza finds out that whatever her name is, the girl from My Cousin Vinny has a crush on him, and he's got a chance to make that happen. Marissa Tomei. He's got a chance to make that happen, but he's got to go behind the wifey's back to do it. They're all telling him no, he can't resist. Maybe you and ScarJo. That's the next big Hollywood couple.
Well, every married couple, my wife and I have been married for almost 10 years now. Every married couple has that one chick that, that the guy can go out and have unconditional, no strings attached sex with, and the wife can't, divorce him or anything like that. Mine's always been Scarlett Johansson. Well, originally it wasn't Scarlett Johansson. Originally it was what's her name? Goldie Hawn's daughter there.
Kate Hudson.
Kate
Another
Hudson.
great choice.
Originally it was Kate Hudson, but then she went and, fooled around with Derek Jeter, which ruined it on me. Then it became Cameron Diaz, and she fooled around with Derek Jeter, and that really ruined it for me.
Who hasn't? For all we know, Scar Joe probably has too. He's got quite the impressive baseball lineup off the field. So
dude, that guy can hit. I love it.
He's raking. Bit more of a power hitter, going for those home runs off the field. Jeff, as we somehow get the train back on the tracks. I'm
on the tracks, on the Scar Joe tracks, baby.
As we look at CJ Procise, one concern is that he is a bit more raw of a prospect, and you can see the indecisiveness and the struggles in pass protection, but you can also see that while at times he gets the ball and he seems a bit hesitant, once he's confident in his decision, he goes 100 miles per hour and usually is able to make something happen.
We need someone that will make something happen. We don't need a dancer like Lawrence Moroney. For all the former players that are on Dancing with the Stars, how is Lawrence Moroney not on Dancing with the Stars? I mean, that guy did the jitterbug every time he touched the ball.
Oh, he would kill it with the foxtrot. Also, Jeff, Procise, I think one area where not only does it help make Procise more attainable for the Patriots, who are obviously picking at the end of the second round, but also I think it may make them more inclined to take a running back like this with all his potential and his versatility, is the fact that he's someone who I think would really benefit from starting his career as a member of a committee and then ultimately has the potential to become not just a starter, but a 3-down back in this league. So you look at that, you look at the fact that this is a player who in 2014 was the special teams player of the year for Notre Dame. So you look at everything this kid has going for him with the minor knocks on him that drop his value just a bit lower than some of the other running backs we've talked. And I think this is someone who could really appeal to Bill Belichick.
Yeah, and the size, 6 foot 220. I'm all set. Bring it on. Bring on Primrose.
Primrose, Hunger Games, what's not to love? We'll get Jennifer Lawrence in the building for Foxborough. That way Mr. Kane can get an interview and lay the groundwork.
Oh, yeah. But then I'd have to give up ScarJo. I gotta, you gotta put these things in on writing to your wife, that okay, it's no longer Scarlett Johansson, honey. It's now, it's now J-Law. So that's one of it's like a year's worth of paperwork. It's horrible.
That's why you got to just stick to the verbal clause. It's a binding verbal agreement.
Yeah, babe, if any stupid Hollywood actress is dumb enough to bring me to bed, it's okay, okay?
Can't blame the Boston fat guy for that handsome face. That's God's creation right there.
Yeah, it's someone's creation. Budweiser and cookie dough.
Amen to that. Well, with my most sincere apologies to Mrs. Kane, that wraps up tonight's episode. For Jeff Kane, who once again, you can find him on Twitter at JeffKane78. I'm Bobby Kravitsky at Bobby_K91. Be sure to follow Inside the Hoodie as well at ITH_FV. Special thanks to the FanView Network and to all our listeners. Have a good night and go Pats.
Later, brothers.